So why don't we start with Ian, and then we'll go to Shiran, and then David, and then Shaun. So Ian,
All
handing it over.
right. And so first off, thank you, Catherine, to yourself and to the committee for inviting me. I was utterly flattered to be invited to sit on this panel and utterly flattered to be considered an ally. So for those of you that don't know me, I'm the executive director with FM Pro, responsible for planning and integration, which means I look after space and planning of capital projects here at UHN. And I'm also responsible for space, capital, and facility operations for all of the research areas here at UHN. It has always been my goal to work with women in a respectful and partnership whereby I'm really looking to listen to them, learn from them, understand the values that they bring to the table, but not just understand the values, to really encourage them to actually take on leadership roles, to actually get the recognition for the work that they're doing, and make sure that they're not just sitting in the background. And it's bringing all of that forward. I've continued and I've been mentoring, I guess I've been mentoring people for a long time now, and it's really been around how do you actually take on those leadership roles and how do you actually move forward. So I guess by nature of that listening and mentoring and really looking for that recognition, that's how I'm being a good ally.
Thank you, Ian. Over to you, Sharon.
Thank you, Catherine, and good afternoon, everyone. And so for those that I haven't met, I'm Sharon. I'm the Vice President for Altum Health and Connected Care, and I've had the privilege of working in the public health system for about 20 years. And in those 20 years, most of my time has been working as colleagues with my supervisors and my mentors have been strong women leaders. And so I think, from my professional career, I've been surrounded by learning from many, many women leaders and having teams of amazing women team members throughout my journey. I would say my own understanding and appreciation of supporting came from my mom, my wife, and my niece. But when I think about this, Catherine, I ended up accidentally being at the same good guy session at Rotman. I think it was about a year and a half ago, Catherine. And I didn't understand the term allyship then. It was explicit for me. I think for me, when I kind of reflected after that session and chatting with Catherine, and again, being very appreciative of being here with you all today, is I think about the opportunity to create psychological safety and trust in my teams. And I think by doing that and being proactive in the conversations and not shying away from it, we're able to do that from that foundation of safety to have the conversations. And I think in particular for me in the last 2 years, those conversations have been even more important as I've seen personally the disproportionate burden that our women leaders have taken on in the pandemic, both here at work and at home. So I think having those conversations and not being shy about that, I'm hoping is what is part of my contribution as being an ally. But I will tell you, I think I'm very early in that journey, putting a name to it, but also understanding more explicitly how I can support.
Thanks, Sharon. It was a great seminar, and we'd really like to bring it to UHN in the coming year or so. Over to you, Shaun.
Thanks, Catherine. Thanks, everyone. Like was expressed by the other panelists, just really privileged to be here and to be asked to join in on this conversation. I'm Shaun. I'm the team lead in communications for the clinical support and performance portfolio, working with Rebecca and Catherine, Shiran, and others. When I think of allyship, I think what it comes down to is a combination of self-awareness and understanding that we all have, our own different, unique lived experiences. So for me, I was raised, my background South Asian, and I was raised in a South Asian household where traditionally you have, the dad who's the breadwinner who would go out and work, and you have the mom whose the expectation on that role is to stay at home. It wasn't the case in my house. My mom was the breadwinner, and then would also have to come home and have to do some of the homemaking responsibilities. I think I was exposed to that at a young age, which allowed me to be able to have an appreciation for obviously the the ability that an independent woman can go and perform in terms of the workplace, but also some of the unfair expectations that society places with them having to come home and continue some of those responsibilities. I think, from a lived experience of a man's side, if they're not exposed to, those experiences, I think they can come in with biases, which they end up carrying on later on. So I think I've been really fortunate also in my professional career to be able to work with Catherine from Jill and then Catherine post internship for the last 12 years, being able to be exposed to also progressive male leaders like Shiran and Ian, also David. So I've been exposed to some really good examples of, I think, how I can support and be, a better ally.
John. So, I have heard comments that the Me Too movement has actually hurt male allyship for women. And, some men have said they're afraid to engage in conversation with women or even be in the same room alone with another woman. And as I've commented before, it takes courage for many of you who've shown up for today's session alone. I just wonder if you can comment on how we might overcome this. And this time I'll go in reverse order and I'll start with Shaun, we'll go to Sharon, and then have Ian comment.
Yeah, thanks, Catherine. So I really struggled with this question in the sense of, I'm not sure if I would agree that the Me Too movement has really been hurting male allyship. I think what it has sparked is this there's created a little bit of a discomfort for men to understand or feel comfortable participating in certain conversations, but that's not a bad thing. Historically, men have owned conversations in spaces which belong to women. And so now the Me Too movement has actually given, almost women have come forward and said, give back our space. And men have started to get a little bit uncomfortable because now they no longer have this ability to be able to know where their sense of control ends. So I think actually what this is doing is creating a sense of it's important that the dialogue continues and that men feel comfortable being able to understand that while it might be uncomfortable conversations for us, it is uncomfortable being a woman in general. And that's the problem that needs to be addressed here. And that's, I think, what the point behind the Me Too movement would be.
Shaun, over to you, Shiran.
Catherine, I just want to mention, I see David's down here, so I don't want to jump in if you wanted him to go next.
Oh, thanks for joining, David. Sorry, the page is going on. Do you want to jump in, David, and introduce yourself and talk a little bit about what allyship has meant to you?
Yes. Hello, everyone. My name is David Shan, one of the managers at redevelopment projects at Facility Management and Planning, Redevelopment and Operations at UHN. I've been an allyship in the other chat group, which I accidentally joined with the working moms. So I was completely stuck. So whoever bailed me out of that one, thank you so much. I am sweating. Allyship to me, I think I like to think of them one of the biggest learners on this. I think in the past couple of years where things have been really difficult, work, home, life, I think really taking it in and listening. I definitely don't want to think when I find myself in those positions, I get myself in a lot of trouble. So allyship to me is just really hearing really what's happening. I think the pandemic too made things a lot more difficult to sort of relate and connect with everyone. So women and men alike, I feel, need to be heard in different areas. So I want to give sort of that part and see where things can connect and help and sort of bring things together for, for better for everyone.
Thanks, David. Over to you, Sharon.
Thanks, Catherine. I think in terms of how to overcome this and encouraging our male colleagues to join, I think for me, when I reflect on that question, it's model it every day and fiercely advocate for it. I don't think you can go a day without coming into a situation where you can proactively support. And I feel like by doing that, hopefully through osmosis and maybe by showing a way to do it, it's a way to help support my colleagues. I use a small example. This is a very tiny one, but even language matters. And some meetings will talk about the word, and this is a pet peeve of mine, the word manpower. And I'll stop and correct something like that mid-sentence because I think it's important to take those moments and to do that regularly, because I think we do have to correct something that we may assume is okay in the past, and I don't think it is. And so that's kind of my hope going forward, is reminding myself and my colleagues to do this every day. People talk about putting skin in the game. I think the best way to do that is just to do it yourself and hopefully lead with example.
Thank you, Sharon. And I'll just remind folks, if you want to put your word into Slido, please do that. It's #UHNWomen. Over to you, Ian.
Thanks. I found this an interesting question, and it took me sort of a little bit by surprise initially, because that Me Too movement actually did, for me, the strengthen my resolve to, if you will, be an ally. I'm proud and privileged to be the father of 2 grown women. I have 3 children, all of whom are very grown and independent adults. But my 2 women in my life, my daughters, whom I love to bits, I have done my whole life nothing but ensuring that they understood that there was nothing that they couldn't do that they wanted to do, that I was here to support them, and that anything like this that came up around the Me Too movement, I'm like, that gives you the right to stand up. That gives you the right to say whatever it is that you want to say. Just listening to a couple of the others in terms of talking about their moms, I was privileged to have a mom who told me everything. And I watched probably one of the most powerful women in my life. This was a woman who was as good in the kitchen as she was picking up a chainsaw and hacking down trees. I mean, she did anything. She let nothing stop her. And so I said to my girls, you need to be like your Nana. You need to take it, and you take whatever comes your way and not listen to anything that happens. I also had to reflect back a little bit and go, is it true that this has actually been a problem for men? And I actually, on the one hand, I sort of, for me personally, I kind of go, no. But on the other hand, I have heard men say, you know what, I'm afraid to say anything now. I'm afraid to actually be, backlashed against because I happen to say something incorrectly and I phrase things incorrectly. I've had those conversations and I had to reflect back on what do I say? And I'm like, wait a minute. You know what, if you're sincere, and I've actually said this, if you're sincere and you really mean support, then you need to continue bringing that forward. And you have to worry a little, you do have to worry about your words, but less focus on the words and more on the intent of that support of women. And we do have to bring that forward. So I think and I'm saying, as men, as allies of women, we have to say to other men, speak up. It's okay. You can speak up and you're not going to get backlash just because there's a Me Too movement.
I think that's a great way to end it. I know this actually should be a full hour session in itself, and we will be planning for more dialogue in the future, but this was really meant to be serving as a kind of an amuse-bouche for allyship. Our 4 panelists have generously offered, if anyone wants to reach out and have a coffee chat or have a bigger conversation, they're certainly available for you to do so, and so you can contact them. We also want to leave you with a couple of resources. So there's some websites that offers some really great thoughts and tips for you to consider. And if you're looking for something more in depth, these 2 books are really wonderful. And as Shiran has mentioned, both of us have attended that Good Guys seminar, and I think that's worthy of exploration to bring into UHN more formally and be able to really help support the whole organization around allyship, specifically for men. So I will end it by saying, please do stay connected. We have an email address you can connect with us. As Brian mentioned, we're going to have a roadshow coming soon to a department program division near you. And please do follow us on Twitter at UHNWomen. And so we will finally end by looking at our beautiful word cloud. Thank you to everyone for putting in your word, its empowerment, support, respect, advocacy, friend. These are all wonderful characteristics of allyship. And so until next time, thank you for joining and thank you for engaging in this dialogue. It's just the very beginning. We need to have way more on to go forward. Have a great day, everyone.